This feed is going to be on Jaime Mungia's. He had a great performance against John Ryder, got him out of there in the 9th round. And we're going to talk about his future very quickly here. Hopefully, I take 10 minutes. So, the first thing we have to realize is what is out there for Jaime Mungia in the 168-pound division. The linear champion, the undisputed champion at 168 pounds is Canelo Alvarez. So Jaime Mungia just kind of got himself into the upper echelon of 168. I believe he has had now his second fight at 168. His first fight was against Sergey Derevyanchenko, who's really a 160 pounder. I moved up to 168 to fight Jaime Mungia, and now his second fight at 168, he stops John Ryder, who is, a good fighter and has fought some good fighters at 168. And so that has actually put Jaime Mungia in the elite echelon now of 168. He's positioned himself quite well. And we know he called out Canelo Alvarez. But let me just show you what it looks like, what the 168 landscape looks like. And that'll give you an idea of, first of all, the kinds of opponents that Jaime Mungia could face. All right, potentially. So, if we're looking at the 168-pound division, I'm going to use BoxRec as my guide here. So, first of all, let me get that there. Okay, there you see the whole 168-pound division. You see those names right there. I'm sure you guys can see them. So, you have Saul Canelo Alvarez right at the top here. Maybe I can blow this up a little bit more. Can I? Nope. So you're just going to have to go with whatever you see on the screen. So Saul Canelo Alvarez, top 168 pounder. After him is David Benavidez. Now BoxRec has Jaime Mungia ranked as number 3. I wouldn't rank him so high, but that's okay. He had really 2 solid wins. One against Sergey Derevyanchenko and then John Ryder, who's a very durable, good fighter. And he actually stopped John Ryder, right? Now, people are saying, well, Canelo didn't stop John Ryder, and Jaime Mungia stopped John Ryder. Jaime Mungia will beat Saul Canelo Alvarez. That's called the triangle theory, which is not something that actually works, okay? Nonetheless, he did stop John Ryder. John Ryder is number 4 here on the BoxRec. I don't agree with this ranking, how it is, but it is what it is. You have Caleb Plant further down here. You have Sergey Derevyanchenko. He's supposed to be a top 168 pounder. He's really a 160 pounder. You have Caleb Plant, who's a real 168 pounder. You have Demetrius Andrade, who has joined the mix up there. You also have David Morrell, very skilled Cuban fighter who has one of the titles. He's got like one of those paper champion belts, secondary titles, along with David Benavidez, who has also an interim title, I believe the WBC interim. And I think that David Morrell has the WBA regular. So let me just check for you guys here. So I'm going to click on David Benavidez first, and it will tell you all his qualifications are right in front of us right now. Yes, he's the WBC interim super middleweight champion. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's what it says. Okay. Can I go back? Is there a back button somewhere? I don't know if I can go back here. Oh yeah, I probably can, but yeah, there you go. Okay. And then, like I said before, you have David Morrell. And David Morrell is the regular. Of course, the real champion is Canelo Alvarez, WBA super middleweight champion right there. Okay. David Morrell. Okay. So you have a sort of interim WBA champion. You have an interim WBC champion. Sort of like that. Who else we got out here? The other known name on this list is Edgar Berlanga, who actually fights, I believe, on DAZN. Edgar Berlanga fights on DAZN. So, Jaime Mungia versus Edgar Berlanga could be a good matchup because they're both on DAZN. So Canelo is right now with PBC, as well as David Benavidez and and David Morrell. Demetrius Andrade is also with PBC. So is Caleb Plant. So like almost all the 168 pounders right now are with PBC, which is a very interesting thing. Okay, that's an interesting point. All right. So anyway, I think that's about it. There's nobody else there. So in terms of Jaime Mungia and who he could face next, people are saying he should go up against Canelo. There was talks about Canelo versus Mungia. Mungia did look good against John Ryder. So they may put him in there with Canelo. I think Canelo, they'll be feeding him to Canelo because Canelo will beat him. Canelo's a different beast to John Ryder and all these other guys. The other person that I talked about was David Benavidez. He would bring about a very exciting fight with David Benavidez, but I think David Benavidez would get him out of there as well because David Benavidez, even though Jaime Mungia is a big, strong guy, he still gets hit though. He still gets hit. And David Benavidez is a guy who also throws combinations, but Jaime Mungia's size and strength will not be able to match what David Benavidez can do. I think the biggest, stronger guy will just simply win that fight, which would be David Benavidez, who I think has a better defense than Jaime Mungia as well. All right, he already faced John Ryder. He already faced Sergey Derevyanchenko. Caleb Plant's another option, but Caleb Plant, again, is across with PBC. Caleb Plant is a fighter who will provide movement. He'll provide slickness. He'll provide difficulty, as well as Demetrius Andrade. Those two guys we'd see if Jaime Mungia actually evolved from the time when he fought at 154 against, I can't remember what the kid's name is. I'm going to tell you his name right now. I'm sure he kind of evolved some, I would hope. But he fought against several really good fighters. Gabe Rosado, man, he came out to get him in the later rounds, even though he hurt him pretty bad. The guy I'm looking at is Dennis Hogan. Dennis Hogan gave him a pretty tough fight. Dennis Hogan with his tricky movement and stuff. Mungia's really looked good in this fight, and it really sets up his opportunities to get the big guns, the big dogs in the division, and may even line him up to get a Canelo fight. Now, whether he will win those fights is another story. Could he beat Caleb Plant? We don't know. There are question marks on that. Could he beat Demetrius Andrade? We don't know. David Morrell is a Cuban fighter, so he would also be a combination of slickness and speed, quickness, all of that. Again, all PBC fighters. Morrell would be a tough challenge, I think, for Jaime Mungia. I think Morrell is a tough challenge for anybody, actually, because he's big, he's strong, he's a 168 pounder, legit 168 pounder. And I would love to see David Benavidez versus David Morrell, but I don't know if Benavidez and his team want that work. So I don't even know. If David Benavidez don't want that work, I don't think Jaime Mungia wants that work. And David Morrell, he's not really this big name. He hasn't fought any big names or anything like that. So, yeah, there's all of that to consider. All reasons to duck him, right? Then there's Edgar Berlanga. Again, Edgar Berlanga doesn't really have that experience, but he does have a name, and he's with DAZN. So with all those reasons, maybe Golden Boy can make that fight. That could be a makeable fight for them. So those are the names. So if you ask me who I think Jaime Mungia might face next, it might be Edgar Berlanga. Really, I hate to say it like that. I know Oscar and they are looking to shoot for the stars, get the Canelo fight. I think that would be a good payday, but that would not be advisable for Jaime Mungia at this time. Edgar Berlanga fight, or even Caleb Plant or Demetrius Andrade fight would be good fights for him. Coming off of that, and those are top guys as well in the division. I wouldn't really suggest he goes up against David Benavidez, and I wouldn't suggest he goes up against Canelo Alvarez. I think they're moving him along pretty well. I know he throws combinations. I know, like a counterpuncher who's trying to catch him in between those shots, a counter puncher might have some difficulty because he has long arms. So, he has a nice long jab, and even when he's throwing his combinations, he can catch you when you think you pulled out and you're out of range. He can still catch you because he has long arms. So as a result of that, it's going to be a tricky situation fighting him. But with guys who have long arms already, like David Benavidez, like David Morrell, even like Demetrius Andrade and Caleb Plant, they all have long arms. It's not going to be as. And then the other thing is, he fought a guy, John Ryder, who's maybe bigger than him in terms of being at a 168-pound division longer. But John Ryder has short arms. To close the distance and catch him was going to be a more of a challenge. David Jenko has relatively short arms compared to guys like, Demetrius Andrade, to Caleb Plant, to David Morrell, David Benavidez. They all have long arms. Canelo has shorter arms than him, but then Canelo, I'd love to see that fight with Canelo anyway. But I think, again, too hittable. And Canelo can crack. And when Canelo really starts to go to town on you, you better answer back, which I expect. I expect Mungia to try to respond because he's Mexican, right? He's fire with fire. But I think that Canelo just has too much firepower. I think he has too much firepower for Benavidez. And I think he's too precise. He's too sharp. He's just too, not Benavidez, sorry, Mungia. As I said before, I think Canelo beats Benavidez. So if he's beating Benavidez and Mungia is like a very cheap, poor man's version of Benavidez, I got Canelo beating Mungia as well. So, honestly speaking, the future for Mungia, I think his best bet is Edgar Berlanga, because they're both in the zone. That's an in-house fight. That can happen. I don't know if Edgar's ready for something like that. That's the only problem. It's not a step back necessarily. It's just dealing with another style, a very heavy hitter, a guy who also has power, a guy who also has pop, a guy who's also dangerous. And a guy who can box a little bit. So it would be interesting to see that fight and how it would pan out. I'd favor Mungia to win that fight, of course. But there's not much more top guys I think Mungia can really get to work with easily. Morrell has never been, doesn't have the experience like Mungia, but man, I still don't fancy Mungia beating David Morrell. So, I don't see him beating David Morrell, David Benavidez, Saul Canelo Alvarez. They have way too much experience over him in those respects. Plant, would love to see that. I don't know what would happen. Andrade, love to see that. I don't know what would happen. Plant's a much better fighter for fighting Canelo, and Andrade is going to be a much better fighter for fighting David Benavidez. So I would love to see those kinds of fights. Even Charlo, who's at 160. Going up to 168. I think I heard Charlo would be facing Canelo. That was the rumor. I don't know how true that is. But even Charlo versus Mungia, I know Mungia didn't want anything to do with Charlo. Actually, they were trying to make the fight at 160, and I don't know what happened. But Charlo versus Mungia would be a good fight as well. That's another one that even though Mal is not in the 168-pound division right now, but it's arguable that he's going to fight Canelo next. And if that's the case, then, they really should put that together, really. Mungia versus Charlo. If it's not Canelo versus Charlo, Mungia versus Charlo, Now, Canelo's across again by PBC. So the chances of Mungia facing Charlo next are slim to none. To be honest with you, but we'll see what happens and what transpires. I am what you need. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You can also donate via PayPal. The link should be in the description. It'll also be in the comment section. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.